Healing crystals, skincare routines, knitting a sweater, fitting in jeans. With Katie and Sarah, no need to worry, you're on a lady journey.
If we nailed it. Oh my gosh. Wow, Lady Journey. This is so special because we have a guest in the studio.
Hello. Hi. And you're like right in the middle.
You're right in the middle.
We're giving you all of our attention.
I'm
so excited to be here.
This is like double therapy right now.
I need this.
We are not licensed therapists. I now have to say that for legal reasons because we do give advice about mental health. We're not therapists. We are comedians. We're not doctors in any way.
No, but we've watched a lot of TikToks, and so we are ready.
Yes. Yeah. We're a doctor in the way that a chiropractor is a doctor, where we tell people that we are doctors when we're not.
Yeah.
Thank you. So welcome, everybody. This is welcome to Lady Journey. We have our beautiful guest, Meghan Hanley, with us. Meghan Hanley is a comedian. She performs all over the country and world. And I've known you for, oh my God.
I think you're like one of the first comics I saw when I moved here in 2008 at Broadway.
Probably, yeah.
I think you were hosting.
I started doing stand-up. I started doing stand-up in 2000. The year 2000. When I first started.
23 years in.
A little bit before Y2K because I remember all the jokes.
Oh,
yes.
I was like my freshman year, the end of my freshman year of college. And I wanted to get started and started doing it. It was a little off and on through college because I was like, well, I'm in college. So.
Yeah, it's hard to be consistent during that time period.
And here you
just
are.
In general.
Yeah, here you are. Yeah. It's a struggle. It's always a struggle. Well, Meghan, we're really excited to have you on, but we always start our podcast off with, first of all, we want to say to everyone, please subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, just give it a little click.
Just lightly touch that subscribe.
Touch it a couple times, but make sure you're not unsubscribing. Yeah. Just subscribe. Subscribe, unsubscribe, leave it on subscribe again, because we're growing our YouTube, and we've actually had some amazing growth recently. So if you have subscribed, we're going to say thank you so much.
Yes. And we look at it every day.
We don't stop looking at it. I actually read every YouTube comment, unlike my own personal page, in which I have the comments turned off because they're mostly about how women are cringy as a species.
Yes, but I've decided that means you've made it.
Yes. Haters. Haters gonna hate.
When I get the I still get the email notification when I get a comment.
Yeah, don't you love that?
When I get it, I go, this video's working.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I will say our our recent dream episode did set off some hate. Some people hated how we were talking about that dreams were boring, but we kind of like talking about it, and that triggered men.
Yes. Joe likes hearing about my dreams, but I have violent, vicious ones that are like movies.
Yeah.
So
it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
It's fun.
A little anxiety.
And we want to thank everyone that's joined our Patreon. You guys, we are actually at 50 patrons now, and we are growing. We're getting more and more every week. So please subscribe to Patreon. We have bonus episodes, and we have so much fun stuff. We do recipe threads.
Yeah, I just put my Christmas recipe with notes.
Yeah, Sarah did her whole Christmas dinner.
Yes.
And it's so awesome. So if you do join our Patreon, no matter what tier, we will give you actually a special shout out and a gemstone dedication. So this first gem today is going out to Mary. Mary, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard Lady Journey. This is a tiger's eye. And tiger's eye is one of my favorite stones because I just love the marbling on it. I'm acting like I know gem terms now.
It always looks kind of velvety to me.
Yes, it does. It's like very smooth. It's like a little toffee almost.
Caramel. Yeah.
So Mary, this tiger's eye is for grounding and protection. It increases self-discipline and personal power. Go girl. It helps one to see clearly without subjectivity. Wow, I need some of that. And it brings good luck and prosperity. So this is for you, Mary. Thank you so much for coming aboard our Patreon.
Yes, journey away.
Journey away, girl. And this next piece, this is for a podcast fan to whom we dedicated a pebble. And I don't want to set a precedent of people returning their gems because they don't like them. But they did, again, this person's identity is unknown to us, but they do go by the pseudonym podcast fan. But they did send in a complaint, and
It was been heard.
it has been heard. It's been
from
received.
the high ups.
And I'll be honest, we have 50 people in the Patreon now. I don't actually have that. I don't have as many stones as I thought I did. So I'm kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel. And that was one where we had a lot last time. And I did give them the pebble, which they felt upset by. And I want to say, you're worth it. Okay, podcast fans. So today I've actually donated this strand of blue chalcedony to you, which I bought at my friend's yoga shop. Shout out Greenwood Lake Yoga in New Jersey. So you're getting blue chalcedony. Now, this is for benevolence. Ooh, send us a nice message this time. Generosity, balance, harmony, goodwill, and flexibility. So thank you for being flexible as we offered you
They were very flexible.
You were very
flexible.
Well, may you be more flexible about your stone choice. And again, thank you, podcast fan, for joining our Patreon. We appreciate you, and we love you so much.
Yes. And there'll more stone dedications coming up on further episodes.
Yes. So, Megan, we're so excited to have you here today because we were thinking it would be fun to talk about, as we all three do, solo traveling.
Yes.
That's our journey we're going on today.
Yes. We were talking about this beforehand of I think a lot of times you go online and you see a lot of solo travelers and you're just like this, oh my God.
Living their best life.
That is me. I'm ready for it. And then when you do it, you're like, this is the saddest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Yeah.
Am I alive?
Utterly alone?
Yeah.
It's so lonely.
Yeah.
I feel like
It's like being a ghost. You're like, I guess I was just a ghost in San Diego for a weekend because no one made eye contact with me.
I felt like when I did the solo trip for myself, I really felt like Cameron Diaz in The Holiday, except that Jude Law never showed up. It's just me alone being like, do I repack and leave? But wait, I can't because I can't even afford this trip, so I can't leave this trip.
Yeah, you have to you're like, well, I paid all this money, so I have to commit to the haunting of San Diego.
Yeah, I know. It is so funny. Like the financial investment, you almost kind of start lying to yourself. Like, this is fine. I'm not crying. I'm not crying in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Now, you went to Seattle by yourself. Is that right? So tell us the story of it.
So I was working on a cruise ship for 2 weeks. That was 2 different cruises in and out of Seattle. It was like an Alaskan cruise.
Okay.
So
Doing comedy?
Doing comedy.
Okay.
So I was kind of like, well, I'm already in Seattle. The flight home is paid for. I should take advantage of this. I've never been to Seattle. I really want to go to the National Park. I'm a big baseball fan. I was like, I'm going to go to a Mariners game. This is great. It was a very short trip. I think the cruise ended on a Saturday. I was flying out Tuesday. So it was like Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Little weekend.
Yeah. And I think, well, again, I thought this would be this like great journey with myself, but it was like I went from being on a cruise ship with all these people, had made all these like new friends, like all these musicians we were hanging out with, just like people surrounding you constantly, to like getting off that ship and just like my suitcase. Also from 2 weeks on a cruise, I had like 2 huge bags, and then just like had to make this literal uphill journey because it was Seattle and everything was hills.
Yeah.
So like this Airbnb, which I also regret, like not a cute hotel, like an Airbnb that wasn't great, and I was just there alone, and I was like, this is so lonely and so isolating. And it was like pretty miserable.
And at Airbnb, staying alone at an Airbnb, it just feels like your roommates are gone for the weekend, or your husband has just left you, and you're like, I guess I'm here now.
Yeah, and you're like, I don't know what glassware to use. What do I do? Because I did Zanies in Chicago. Chicago's supposed to be a great city. But then you're like, I didn't do any. I just watched Bar Rescue for 8 hours straight.
I watched The Office on my computer because there was no TV at the Airbnb. I was sitting
luxury
alone in this bed being like, I don't know if even this door is locked correctly. There's notes about me not getting my makeup on the towels. Like, I don't want to get charged for this.
I love that. It's like your like mean mom is like, and don't get your makeup on those towels like you always do.
You're like, sorry. It's really tough. Like as a comedian, I was just in Seattle also, and I think it's tough as a comedian because like you go somewhere and then you feel all this weird like pressure to do the Seattle thing.
Yeah,
I'm like, do I go to the Space Needle right now? Even though I have no interest, but I felt toxic guilt towards myself for not going to the Space Needle because it was like far away. And I took the train from the airport to the hotel I was staying at, and it was very scary. And I was like, I don't know if I want to get back on the P train. I don't know if I want to get back on the P train where a man was looming over me so I can go to a brunch at a Scandinavian restaurant. But that's why I decided, because I do feel like I go to these places, like I was in Austin, for example, which is like a beautiful town, but I didn't see anything of it. And the staff at the comedy club I was at, performing at Cap City, which was so fun and I loved it. But the staff was like, what are you going to do tomorrow? Where are you going to go? And I felt I had to come up with this lie that I like saw the town because I didn't want them to be disappointed that I came and then just stayed in the mall where the hotel was and the comedy club was. And then I just went to Starbucks and then I had a croissant. And that was the only thing that I did to like experience the culture of Austin.
Well, because I have family that lives in Austin. I've traveled there, and I also have moments where this is what happens. I have a budget.
Yeah.
I'm not taking a $30 Uber to go to stores where I can't afford their expensive vintage jeans. So I'm just like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Go to the mall.
Go to the mall.
Go to the mall.
Yeah. That's why, see, I think like when you travel by yourself, whether it's like for a work trip or like for pleasure or for, in your case, for sadness, business or pleasure, actually sorrow. I'm here for sorrow. I say like, this is one of my number one travel tips that I'm dropping on the podcast is that instead of putting pressure on yourself to do touristy stuff, I think you should just do the stuff that you like doing in your home. It's like, I would never go to the Empire State Building by myself. Therefore, I know I do not need to see the Space Needle.
Yes.
Like I had a great time in Seattle by myself. I went got amazing takeout, brought it back to the hotel, and just had like a luxurious little like hotel feast. I got this amazing, because Seattle has such great food. I got really great like Korean tofu soup. I had the kimchi. I had all the sides, and I just brought it back to the hotel and I spread it out. And I was like, you know what? This feels really fun and really good. This feels better than me going to like the Pike Place Market and like fighting my way towards a loaf of sourdough bread.
Yes. Well, it's also because in Seattle, I think a good thing to do is go do activities like, I don't know, in Portland, Oregon, they have an amazing bookstore, and at least a bookstore, that's an activity that you do by yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. But you're right. Going to the Empire State Building by yourself just feels weird.
Yeah. If you wouldn't do it here in town, then don't do it. Because you put, like, if you go to Paris, for example, you're like, I guess I have to go to am I going to go to Paris and I'm going to tell people I didn't go to the Eiffel Tower?
Yes.
Even though that feels like nails on a chalkboard to be like just waiting in line with a family and their kids like peeing their pants.
But I feel like here's what's, well, I've never been to France, but what I think would be great.
Yeah, love to go. Lady Journey Paris.
I will go alone. But I feel like I love to do anything that I can walk to and see as I'm like walking around. Because then you're getting a walk in, you're listening to music, whether even taking photos, like videotaping some things, that's great. Anything, again, that's free. I can walk around, take in the scenery. But when it's something, I have to make the commitment to, it's a touristy thing. There's a lot of money involved. And you just go, I don't have to do this.
No, you want to go travel by yourself to at least cities that you can walk.
Yes.
Don't go to Houston.
Don't go to Houston. Yeah, where you're like downtown and you're like, it's getting scary. It's 10 minutes after the sun sets and people are like burning stuff over a barrel fire. And you're like, what's over there? Is that a thrift store?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say, like, I was staying in U District in Seattle, which is a gorgeous area. And I felt this like pressure to go downtown because it's like, if you're in New York, are you really going to come? If you came to New York, you're going to come to like Astoria and then you're never going to see any other part of New York. And you're just going to be like, well, I went to New York, but I was just in Astoria. But then I talked to some other people and they're like, you don't need to go downtown. Like, have a nice breakfast, like, just enjoy yourself and don't put pressure on yourself to do the touristy things.
Yeah, well, I know Joe has a bit kind of in this realm of like when people are like, oh, I want to do what New Yorkers do. And you're like, we eat at Chipotle.
Yeah.
It's nothing. We're not doing anything crazy here. Like, we're not going to extravagant dinners all the time.
Yeah, we're eating a bag of Bazzini's nuts as we run for the train.
Go to the bodega. That's your New York experience. Go to a bodega.
But I like that. Like, sometimes my favorite things to do in other countries is just convenience stores, look at their snacks, see the graphic design for them. What do they have in the convenience stores? Because it's like always different than what we have.
Yeah.
So it's fun to experience that, like the stuff on the smaller scale, rather than trying to do the big shit.
I will say, I do think like a restaurant is a really good way to like structure your time. If you're like, okay, I'm going to plan to go to like a really fancy dinner or a really fancy brunch. And depending on the setting of a restaurant, like if you pick something that has like a great view, like that can be a really great way to just be like, oh, I experienced the city. And I also got to have this nice dinner where it's like you're sitting by yourself at a table, you have your own safe space.
Yes.
And you're just, indulging, getting a nice meal, and you also have this beautiful environment. I think that's a really nice, good way. For me, like going by myself places, I get really anxious where I don't know where I'm going and I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm just kind of like, I guess I'm loafing in a museum now. Like I'm just in the corner and I want to go get ice cream, but I don't know where anything is, Yeah. So planning ahead is a really important travel tip. Now you took a tour, right?
I took a tour. Yeah. So I really wanted to go to Mount Rainier, and
which love the cherries. Love your cherries, Mount Rainier.
Oh yeah. That was part of it. We stopped and then we got, and then on the way back, it was like we stopped to get the specific ice cream. Well, it was like a purple. It was a certain berry, and they were like, "We're known for
acai."
Was it acai? It was like a blackberry, but
maybe goose.
Elderberry.
Oh, now I can't
I
remember.
love this. Is so Lady Journey. We're like, I can
berries, naming berries.
I can name all the berries.
Yeah, maybe it was I don't know, but it was like, but that was like part of the thing. The last thing we did on the way back is like we stopped there. So I signed up for this bus tour, and it was like a 12-hour thing where really you met at like 6 a.m. with these random people, and everybody else was there with families and friends, and I was like the only person alone. And at first, who cares? Like you're just getting on a bus and you're going on this tour.
Yeah.
But our tour guide he reminded me of my old cross country coach. He was like hilarious, but also kind of cheesy, and then very like dad-esque. And like, but he just, as the day goes on, you're spending so much time together, and there was time on your own, but time with the group. And then I like to travel with a Yankee hat because people won't want to talk to you about baseball. So I feel
they
like
won't want to.
They do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like a good thing that like, especially the Yankees, because people don't like the Yankees.
Yes.
So they'll come up to you, and there was a father-son traveling, and I kind of was in with this mom and daughter and other like friend or something, because there was 3 of them. So I was like in the other seat. So I was kind of with them. But then as the tour went on, finally like the dad and the son came up to me, and they were like, "Yankees, huh?" And they're like, "We're Nationals fans." I'm like, this is like when it was 2018 or 20. So the Nationals were really good, and we just started talking about baseball. And then you're like, I have another thing to talk about. You're connecting.
Yeah.
See, I love so a tour. I think it's a great thing to do if you're traveling by yourself, because again, it's like the more I think that you can like plan a little structure of like, I'm just doing 3 days. Like one day I'm doing a tour, one day I'm doing a dinner, the other day I'm doing a bookstore. Then it's like you kind of don't feel that sense, which I've had that too, where you're just in a strange place, you're cast adrift, and now you're like, this is my home. I don't know who I am. I am crying on a park bench, and this is my story. This is how my story ends.
I was honestly like, I would get off the ship. I think I might have went to a yoga class. This is a travel tip I have for you too.
I think exercise too.
Yoga class.
A yoga class.
Yoga
is good.
class. Totally.
And it's also great if you get somewhere early and you can't check in somewhere. Because I think I couldn't check in there maybe till 3. I got off the ship at like 9 a.m. So I went to a yoga class, and also like it's somewhere you can put your bag. So I did the class, and then I asked them if I could keep my bags there, if I could just go walk around and sightsee, and they were like, sure, like, which was really cool. I don't know if that's part of it's just like the yoga vibe. They don't want to say no.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they wanted to do it, but
take
they were
advantage
like,
of that niceness.
They're givers. Yoga people are givers.
they're like, sure.
Can I move in here?
I was like, I'll be right back.
I just need a quick place to stay for the night. No problem. Namaste. Namaste, everybody. No, I love that. I think that's a great idea too. And I would recommend, like, if you are not, if you're like a first-time solo traveler, just go somewhere like in your own country. I think because when you go to places where the language is different, that's when I revert to like anxiety brain, where I'm like, I don't want to embarrass myself asking for the bathroom, so I'll just never pee. And Safety. What's your opinion on like safety as a woman traveling alone often?
I feel like it's something I've now become more aware of, but at first I feel like I wasn't always aware of it, especially even booking stuff. I remember I even just booked a trip to LA to do a bunch of shows, and I booked something online, and the first place I got to, I mean, I really checked into this place, and I was like, I have to leave, and I had to call TripAdvisor, and they had me on the phone. They're like, okay, they'll let you out of it, but you have to pay for tonight. And they stayed with me like on the phone till I drove to like, it was just like a Best Western Plus, but it was the kind of thing of like, I got this great deal. It looked like it was enough stars, but then it was one of those where like the key was like just the key. There was nothing else, and it was a door to the outside.
Oh, I don't like that. Just
it was like No Country for Old Men. I was like, I gotta get out of here.
Horrifying. Yeah. Read the reviews. If you're a lady traveling by yourself, you have to read the reviews. Yeah. And I've done that too, where like I stayed at Airbnb one time. This was when I was performing at a college in Gettysburg, I guess whichever one is there, just doing like a little stand up there. And the show was great and the kids were so fun. But as I got there, I knew something was wrong immediately because I went in to, it was a place above a laundromat, and the laundromat smelled like cat pee, which I've since heard that can be either it was cat pee or it means like they were making meth in there. That's the smell of meth cooking. But like the woman, what's that scent you're using? But the woman was unhinged. She took me upstairs to a little bathroom. It looked, like the little bedroom, the little like apartment. It looked like Amityville Horror. It looked like a scene from a horror film. She came in the room with me and was telling me that we were on the field. We could see a field from the Battle of Gettysburg. I was like, I have to go to the show. She was like, I'm going to come. I read about it in the paper. I was like, I don't know how you did because this is a private show for a university. I went to the show. I came back. I was like too tired to drive. I just like laid on the bed having nightmares. I took like 3 melatonin. I could not sleep. I was in and out of nightmares and just woke up and drove the fuck out at like 5 a.m. But I'm like, you know what? If I had more carefully looked at the pictures, read the reviews, that never would have happened to me. But I'm glad that it did happen because now I read them like a freaking, like I am a detective solving a crime. I'm like, was there a hair found on the pillow? Because it's the only way to know.
Yeah, I think I'm done with Airbnbs.
Yeah.
I don't think you save any money doing it.
It's
and they
more
put
expensive.
You at risk. It feels dangerous.
It's getting to that point. I feel like they're great to do with a big group.
Yeah.
Like if you can get like we did a house. My sister's bachelorette party was in Austin and Lake Travis. The house was incredible. We had like 15 people. You know?
That's a good one. Yeah.
Great. But alone.
Yeah.
It's like, by the way, my Uncle Mark will be by to feed the cat. And you're like, hello, I'm naked. Yeah, I've done so many Airbnbs, like especially over the years when it was like cheaper and I was just like trying to save $1, you know, and I feel like the same where I'm just like, you know what, I'd rather go to a hotel that's cheap but nice, like not necessarily like the Days Inn, which I've had it, which has been scary. I stayed at a Days Inn when I was in Denver once. That was across the street from a 7-Eleven, and I was just awakened every night by like screams. Like, you know what? Was it worth the $100 that I saved to feel terror?
No, I do get the idea more of like looking at the reviews and getting like, even when you think this could be like a luxury hotel, when you check in, and even if it's just like a basic hotel but has the needs that you want, I feel comforted by the front desk that's downstairs.
Yes.
There's someone to go to.
Yes. They will call 911 for you.
Yes.
Yeah. So read the reviews. I also say like go on TripAdvisor and read their reviews too, because there's some really good communities on there that I think will be helpful if you just even are looking for like, is like X neighborhood in like Portland safe at night, for example? You know, it's like that's stuff you should look into, especially if you are a woman traveling alone. I know we all have this like fantasy that we want to live in where like we're like, I'm a woman, like I can do anything. But it's like the truth is you do have to be careful and like never tell your hotel, even to like another woman, you know, like.
Yeah, or take photo, as you said, like if you're post after you've left that location.
Post the photos later.
Do your photo dump later.
Never tell anybody your hotel. And I think like too, when you travel alone, like there's an instinct that sometimes you are lonely and you like want to make friends, or like go by the hotel bar and just like chat it up with people. And if you're a woman, I fall victim to this too. It's like I see another woman and I assume like girlfriends, girl power. I assume that she's like a safe space, and I'm like telling her my whole life story. It's like that could be Ghislaine Maxwell. Like I don't know. I could be sex trafficked at 36, you know? So we all need to watch out for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. It's true, the information you're definitely sharing, especially with strangers and also with the internet now, because it feels very much like you're interacting. I'm doing a story. This is where I am. I'm letting people know, but
people sleuth. You
sleuth.
have artwork from the hotel. They will know what hotel.
Yeah, you're like, I jacked off in that in that space. Well, because I think of like the first times that I ever really traveled by myself, and I like looking back, like I took this trip when I was 23. I got cast in this play on Backstage. It was a one-woman play. It was called Making Love with a Pliable Penis. It was about the government raping America. I played America. And it was like a lot of prose that did have like a bit of a, as I was like working on the play more, I was like, I think this is pretty sexual, you know? It's like a lot of innuendo, but it was written by this guy who, he was an older man, retired. I believe he had been in Vietnam, and this was kind of like his manifesto for some reason. It was being performed by me, but so I like worked on it in New York, and then he invited me to go to Hawaii to perform it. It was like, I'm basically getting like an all expenses paid trip to Hawaii, and I'm 23 years old, and I'm getting paid to do this play. So I was like, oh, cool. But in the back of my mind, I was like, could this be danger? Like, is this like what I've seen on Unsolved Mysteries? You know, This seems like, so I called my mom, and I was like, do you think that's weird? And my mom was like, just go. Just go, have a great time. I was like, you're right, Mom. And then I remember I went home for Christmas, and I was like, you know, I'm going to go to Hawaii, you know, like I told you. My mom was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I ran it by you, and you thought it was great. You told me to go. My mom was like, no, I did not. My mom was like, oh my God, I thought you were talking about something else. My mom completely spun out and was like, I will pay for the plane ticket. Just cancel it. Just turn it down. It is not safe. And I was like, wait, what?
But it's Hawaii.
It's Hawaii, Mom, and I want to go. And then I got back to it was like the day before I left, I told my roommate, and I was like, my mom kind of flipped out, and she said that she feels it's unsafe. And my roommate was like, well, I didn't want to say anything, but me and Mary think you could be raped. And I was like, what?
Talking about
it. I was like leaving. My flight was in like 11 hours. And I was like, So I ended up, I went, and it was like totally fine. Like the guy was, you know, normal. He was there with his girlfriend, and you know, I actually, because my friends and my mom put like the fear of God into me, I didn't do any. They invited me for like a couple activities, like climbing up a mountain. I was like, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in the room. So it was like, we did the play, we rehearsed it, we did a performance of it. And then I was just there. I was there basically by myself for like an entire week, or maybe it was like 5 days, because we were doing the rehearsals in the daytime. But I was really sad. I remember being really sad and being like, I'm in Hawaii totally alone. I had like gone through a breakup like 6 months before, and I was just feeling like Waikiki too. I was in Honolulu. I was on Waikiki Beach. And that is the place that lovers go. Like, that is not a solo travel destination. So I was there like getting like a smoothie with like people on their honeymoon, you know? And so I was just really sad. And I remember like I decided to treat myself. I did my plan. I like went out for like a dinner. I think it was like the night of the show, you know? The night I did the performance of the show, and then afterwards I was like, I'm just going to take myself to dinner. And I went out for a dinner. I had like this nice fish. It was gorgeous. I got drunk at the dinner, which I don't think was a good idea, because this was also when I was like drinking, more than I do now. And I got pretty hammered. I was hanging out at the bar, like just chatting up people. And like, oh, can I smoke a cigarette? You know, just like and I do not remember getting back to my hotel. I woke up naked in the morning with chocolate melted to my body.
Oh my gosh.
I like had like one of those like brown out flashbacks where I was just like in the ABC, just like getting a ton of candy for myself, like just stumbling in. And so it's like, thank God, like that's the least that happened. But like looking back, I'm like, you should never have more than 2 drinks when you're traveling by yourself. Like it's just not safe. And I'm like, you know what, like that could have been a fucking Dateline episode. Like woman goes missing in Hawaii. Like I'm just hammered, like approaching a predator, like, do you want to chat about me? I'm here, I'm doing a play.
I also feel like you always, if you do have a murder case, you don't want it to be where everyone's like, why would she do that? You want it to be like, that's awful.
Yeah.
Not like, oh my God, that's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard anyone ever do.
Yeah, like someone approaching Ted Bundy and asking if, like, do you have a shed I could go lay down in?
Like, but she was playing America.
Yeah.
America. How could this go wrong?
And you know what was so weird? Like, it was like, this was in 2009, I will say. So this was like a bit before like the, people really, blackfacing was like as taboo as it is. But I do remember when I was in high school, my drama teacher, Mrs. Reed, shout out, she was an incredible drama teacher, but she told us immediately in high school, it was like, if you're a serious actor, you would never do blackface, you would never do brownface. It's so totally inappropriate. And when I was doing this play, the director asked me to get a spray tan so I could portray myself as a Native American woman because I was playing America. And I was like, thank God my drama teacher like told me to never do that, because I was like, I don't know, it sounded weird, but they really, really wanted me to. And I was like, I guess I could get a spray tan, but I put my foot down and I did not do it. Thank you, God.
That teacher gave you the best advice.
The best advice I've ever received in my career ever.
Yes.
Because
I remember doing a project in school. We did 2 Live Crew, and we didn't know. We had a girl dressed as Luther Campbell from 2 Live Crew, and she put the makeup on.
Yeah.
Not one teacher said anything. And I think about that. It was a video project, and I'm like, I think about that to this day. I'm like, that is so insane to me. Right. Not one teacher pulled us aside and be like, oh, yeah, you don't have to do blackface to do Luther Campbell. You could do what he's wearing, and we would get it.
Yeah, it's irresponsible. And even though it was like years and years ago, I mean, this was 20 years ago now, but, I think I just really appreciate Mrs. Reed. She was actually a fantastic drama teacher.
Yeah.
She was good.
I also love that I didn't see the twist being like the final thing. Was they were like, can you get a spray tan? I was like, oh, what's going on in Hawaii? Is Katie being assaulted? And, like, and you're like, oh, this is a different. It's still wrong, but a different twist.
Yeah. Also, when you are traveling by yourself, do not do blackface. That's one of my travel tips. That is one of my travel tips. I was thinking about that, because we have photo. I mean, everyone gets a spray tan, but a spray tan wouldn't technically be considered blackface unless you were like, and I'm native.
Yes.
So that's one of the most insane travel stories that I have had, where I'm like, yes, mistakes were made, but at least I got back in one piece. Nothing bad happened to me. I ended the project. I said, I'm not going to do it. He wanted me to continue to perform it at open mics, which I found to be, I was like, now that I know comedy is
fetishy.
Could you imagine I'm coming to open mics like, knock, knock, said Uncle Sam. I'll hop on your cock.
And then reporting, I think it went really well today.
Yeah.
The message was received.
The comedians are like, what stand-up is this? Yeah.
For Meghan, have you done any like scared loner gigs?
I'm trying to. There's definitely probably been plenty where I've been doing them and been like, okay, this is fine. And when you're younger, you just like kind of go with it. I feel like
you don't think anything of it.
Yeah.
The older you get, the more I'm like, I'm not doing that gig, or it's just me, or I got to get somebody else to come with me, or I have to. Again, I'm getting booked on something, but let me run it through an agency and give them the percentage. No, it's a real deal. Because if I'm just getting an email from my website, no, I cannot get on a plane and come to your town. And chances are it does work out, but like again, I can't do that.
The things that people ask you to do, like I had a guy being like, would you be okay if I sent my friend to pick you up in his van? This was a festival in Lawrence, Kansas, and it turned out legit, but I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, I'm getting like a legit service that I don't have to be fearful for my life.
Yeah. It's like, can I have a helicopter come and take you to an undisclosed location? You're like, I guess. How much does this pay? $75? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I think like when you're in your 20s too, like when you're in your 20s, you're friends with everybody. You're like, oh my God, my best friend. Because that's when you like make and form these friendships when you're like an early adult. And I definitely had a couple times where I was like, oh my God, like that person's best friends with my best friend. And now they're my best friend. And then I was like, oh, that guy has evil intentions. Yeah. He is probably a criminal and he does not have my best interest at heart.
And I don't trust even my guy friends.
Yeah.
Because the way that other men treat women is different than how they treat their guy friends.
Yes, it's true. And especially like when you're alone, like, you know, like guys do, and not all guys, okay, disclaimer, don't comment on it, Jerry, but I, like some guys do have this thing where like they get you alone and if they know that you're single too. And I will say like it shouldn't have to be a thing, but like if you're traveling alone, just say you have a boyfriend. Say you have a boyfriend because it just immediately like I'm not open to fucking you. Okay, Craig. It's just like say you have a boyfriend, but it's like some guys they will be like all cool in a group setting, and then when they get alone, it's like, you know, they like to test the waters, like touching your thigh or whatever, holding your hand. You're like, wow, he's really fun, you know?
Yeah, or saying like a weird comment offhand where you're like, well, that was weird.
That was weird. Yeah. I think like if you are a girl traveling alone, or if you're a girl comedian working alone, like you do have to be vigilant. And that's why you really shouldn't have more than 2 drinks. Cause it's like 4 drinks in, you're like, well, I guess that was weird, but I'm tired, you know? Stay vigilant. And also like, I do think it's a good idea to, check in with people, you know, just like have a friend check in, like, there's been so many times that I've just been like, I'm on the train to Connecticut or whatever, like I'm staying 2 nights there, like I don't know, you know, just like check in with your mom and be like, just so you know, I'm flying to Virginia.
I feel like I've also done that where I've checked in again, like in my 20s, just not thinking, checked in with my family and they're like, you're doing what? Where are you? I'm like, all right, like we were friends of mine. My car, our car broke down on the way to going to Boston to hang out with friends and party in our 20s, and we had like all this like beer in the car and we had our suitcases and stuff. Halfway there, we're at a McDonald's, we go back in, the car doesn't restart, AAA comes, and we're like halfway in between, what are we gonna do? I called my parents, they were at some like party or something, and then as we're there sitting there, this van pulls in and it says New York to Boston, and we got in it and we took the van to, because we looked in and there were other people, they were going, but then there was someone had a baby and we're like, well, there's a baby.
Well, there's a baby.
It's a baby.
That's
and
safety.
We got in with our beer, and then we eventually, I think when we got close to Boston, I don't know if we shared the beer with the people, or we definitely left it in the van and said, this is also for you, and we paid, I think it was $15 each. But like me and my friends still talk about that. We go, oh my God, what were we thinking? We just got in a random person's van because there were other people in there, and like my parents called the number on the van. They're like, this number is out of service. Like what? And we were just gone. Like we just got in it.
Yeah.
Like,
just in a van. Bye.
Yeah, and it did work out. We got there and we got out at like one of the first stops, and then we got in a cab like to my friends. But no, I would never do that.
Yeah, it's so much stuff looking back. And like you and I went to Laughing Skull together. We went to the Laughing Skull Festival 2 years in a row. We stayed in the same room, and it was
in Atlanta.
And it was so fun. And I've been to Atlanta so many times, but I think those were like the first 2 times that I went when I was with you. And I remember like at that festival, like they have these comedy festivals, right, where like you can go, and if you're a comedian, like they have the big parties, and people go and people get really shit canned at these parties. And but then, you know, like I remember like having a moment, like realizing in the party, like I'm actually still completely here by myself. Like, yes, I'm staying with like girlfriends, and like, you know, hopefully my friends will like drag me back to the room. But like, then I also don't know you that well. Like, I'm just the person that's a problem. You're like
you weren't, by the way. You weren't. I feel like we all looked out for each other.
We were all good, but I think like when you're traveling in a group but you're still alone, you still have to be careful of like, oh, let me not like lose my credit card. Let me not like you know, use the safe at the hotel and just like put your shit in there and just take a little bit out, you know.
Good.
Use the safe, and then also remember the number, which is also that's as bad as losing your stuff, is being like, I don't know. And they're like, we can't help you, ma'am. You're like, well, that's my passport. So use the safe. And now you did, which I think is so fun. You and a bunch of ladies went on a European USO tour.
Yeah.
Tell us
awesome.
about it. Tell us about it.
Incredible. Yeah, I think it ended up being, it was 20 or 25 days, and we were all over the place. But we flew into Kosovo, and we were with somebody from the military there, and we had shows there, and we were at like a hotel there. But once we flew to Germany, after that, we were like on the road every day. It was like different days. So like, you had like 2 suitcases, one that was like your largest suitcase, one that was like your get out of the car and go to the next hotel. But what was great about it is, for the most part, we stayed on base. Okay. So it's like you were on the military base.
Okay.
And occasionally we stayed off base. The places were all awesome, but we also had like the driver was with us the whole time, and he was
that's
so
nice.
awesome. So
that's
it was like
nice.
people that knew the area. They did these tours all the time, and they really. The one guy, Mike and Rico, shout out. They were both awesome. But they even helped us out when we were going. We took a boat to England. That was like the final leg. So it was like we went from like Netherlands and then drove through France and then got on a boat. And at first they gave us a hard time at the border because they were like, what do you mean you're not getting paid? And we were like, no, it's like a stipend, like for a thing. They were like, what? This can't be for real. So we ended up like missing the boat. And like Mike stepped in to talk to them like on our behalf. And he was like, no, he's like, it's a great experience. You get to travel. You get to this. And like we got sent to an office, but then we had all our paperwork and it was fine. But he was very like protective of us and making sure we were okay. And that was great.
That's helpful.
Yeah. So that's that. I mean, that's, I guess, really takes a lot of the stress out of like, I mean, traveling by yourself to another country. I think for me, because I did fly to Rome by myself, and even that was stressful. Spending like 9 hours in Rome by myself, I was just like terrified and like, I look stupid with my hat, as you know. Throwback to my hat. I had a big hat. Now, what's your opinion of like the little secret money pouch? Like, do you take that when you travel internationally?
I've never.
Oh, I don't know.
I feel like I see
I'm
it
always
on
cards.
every use cards.
Yeah.
I see it on every like blog. It's like travel. It's like a little like basically like a smaller version of a fanny pack that you wear under all of your clothes so that you can like keep money in there in case you get like your backpack stolen and you're not like, oh my God, I'm like in Spain. I have no money and I have no phone.
I'm hearing this and all I'm picturing is Gone Girl.
Yeah.
She's got the money at the hotel and she's
I was like,
also
that's
good.
intense travel.
It is intense.
It's a good idea though.
I think it's a good idea, but I can't figure out if it really is. Like I think that there is more of like an American fear of being like pickpocketed. I don't know if it's like actually that realistic, but it's also like, I don't know how realistic it is to be like, excuse me, I need to get my credit card. Where's the ladies' room?
Yeah.
I need to get it out of my butt crack.
Velcro it out.
Yeah, and you're like digging in, you know? And then also it's like, it kind of, I'm assuming if you're traveling in the summer, it's going to look a little bulky against your silk dress where it's like, oh, don't worry, that's just my money pouch that I have an entire week's worth of cash stuffed inside. Yeah. I guess you could get it if you're like nervous about being like in the middle of nowhere with no money.
I don't think I've ever traveled with anyone that's done a money pouch. And I think a few times we stayed when we were in South Africa, we had money stolen out of our hotel.
Okay.
So it's always like that was annoying, but I feel like nothing really ever bad has happened.
That's
super
good.
when traveling. I know it does, but I do think sometimes we are instilled with too much fear.
Yes. Yeah.
You just have to be mindful. Like I've heard somebody told me, I think it's Andy Haynes. It feels weird because I haven't talked to him since, but I was hearing this through Wilford. He had his phone snatched out of his hand in London or England.
Yeah.
That you should be careful about how you hold your phone and make sure you keep everything close to you.
And that's a really, really good tip because that actually happened to somebody here in New York. I know that she was texting, not paying attention, and someone on a bike literally just grabbed her phone out of her hand.
Yeah. And my phone casing has my wallet. I keep my credit cards there, and I also do Apple Pay.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm fucked.
Yes, that's good. So keep your phone. Don't be like texting in public, I think. Like that's just a general safety tip for life. I think.
I try to
be in the moment.
Yeah, when I'm holding like my phone, I try to I get like the grip where the finger on top. So it's like on side and like finger on top. This way it's not like that open space to lift. But still, if someone has enough, like they know what they're doing, they can still just get it out of your
Keep
hand.
your phone.
Yeah.
That's how I read it on the train. I'm just have the
Grip
death
so
grip
much.
on it. You're not getting this while I learn about myself.
Yeah. And I also, well, now it's tough. I love my AirPods, but for a long time I didn't do the AirPods because having headphones plugged in, I felt like it was another sort of safety thing. It was like it's something else plugged into your phone that's going to just cause a little of a friction that you could. But now that I go AirPods, I can't go back.
I don't have AirPods. I have a large ear hole.
Yeah.
And I feel that it's going to fall out a lot, and I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to be like, excuse me, my ear pooped my pod out. Although this is one thing I will say, like money wallet, let's say no, it's a no on the money wallet. Just be aware. Don't let the money wallet like take the place of you like paying attention to where you are. But I will say, if you're traveling by yourself and if you're traveling on any trip, you should bring like one of those mini first aid kits. They have them at Bed Bath & Beyond. They're like $5. It's like Band-Aids, Neosporin, aspirin, like, because you just don't want to be like up at 4 a.m, like bleeding. Like, I guess I'm looking for a pharmacy now. I'm in Belize and I have a cut on my foot really bad, just out in the middle, like a wild animal.
Things are a lot easier though now with internet.
Yes, that's so true.
Because I think back of how I've been traveling in the last few years, and you're just like mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Because like having to get COVID tested in another country, you're like, I wouldn't have been able to do this without internet.
Use the internet. Yeah, that's why also stay at a hotel that has Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Check ahead to make sure it has like strong Wi-Fi in case you need to stream The Office for safety and comfort. Like, sorry, I need something with a strong signal because I may get scared emotionally.
Somebody was telling me last night they travel with an HDMI cable and it connects from your computer to the TV, so now you can watch Netflix or anything that you want to watch.
That's nice.
That's
a good travel
tip. Your
tip.
laptop. But I have to tell you, I do not like traveling with my laptop, and I try not to travel with it.
I have this fantasy.
It's the most expensive thing I own.
Yeah.
And if it disappears, I'm fucked.
Yeah. I feel the same. Like, I have this fantasy. My grandmother told me about her friend. She told me this story when I was little about this woman, and I'm sure this was in like, the 60s when you could truly do this, but like she just had like a dress and she had a backpack and she had like a spare pair of underwear in her backpack, and she just packed it up and she went to Europe, and she just like washed her underwear in the sink every night. And it was like, what a fantasy. Like, I love washing your underwear in the sink. I mean, you have to blow dry it, obviously, because it's not going to dry. It's not going to dry. But I just have that, and I do try to live that fantasy of traveling light, even though it's kind of become a nightmare in the modern era, because now I'm just like wearing 4 outfits under my coat.
Yes.
But I love that. I love like just going out into the world and being like, you know what, I just have a pair of jeans and that's kind of all I need, especially if you're traveling solo and just like, maybe like you have a tiny slip dress in there in case you meet a prince and he wants to take you out to a restaurant.
That is lovely. I love the idea of that. And then sometimes if I'm going on like a big trip, I do tend to overpack, but almost on purpose, where I'll bring like the suitcase to check, but then I bring a carry-on that I could just get by with.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm going somewhere and performing. Like when I used to do the cruises, I'd be like, there's not going to be another female performing. So like, I don't have clothes to borrow.
Yeah.
Like, if this suitcase gets delayed, I have to know I have shows to perform in, to sleep in, and like work out in for at least a few days.
And I need tampons. I need 1,000 tampons.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh. I had that sort of happen to me. I was on a ship and got unexpected.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like, luckily we were in port in Bermuda. And I mean, talk about like just knowing like I have to wake up and like get off this ship, and like there was a pharmacy in port, and like get to it, and I was like,
They don't have one on the ship?
they do. They have
Or
a
a
store,
gift
but
shop?
they do have a store, but there's like specific hours of it too, so you got to make sure you get the hours. And I was like, why was I so dumb to just not bring? I think
I do it all the time.
and I always do now.
All the time.
All the time. Like I
all the
overpack
time.
now.
All the time.
And I must have had a few things, but it was one of those where I was like, oh, I don't have like supplies to last me, and I wasn't expecting this, and it was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, it's the worst. And then there's no other women comedians like within a day's journey that you could like. That's why I'm like, please put another woman on the show because someone's gonna have their period.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be just making an announcement on stage.
Yeah.
Now, give us as we're wrapping up here. I just want to hear from you because you do the cruises, and I think that's really fun and interesting. Give us like day in a life cruise ship comedian. Like, what are you eating? What are you doing? Who are you sleeping with? Oh my God, tell us everything.
Who are your friends?
Yeah, it is like such an emotional journey for the full day because you can just have like the best time and the worst time sometimes within like 2 hours of each other because you can be really lonely and isolated, and then you can also be on this like excursion with all these new friends that you just made, and you don't know who you were working with. Yeah, you could end up working with people that everybody gets along in this great community setting, and then you meet who's in the cast of this show, and then you're all hanging at a crew bar, and then like you go parasailing together, and like you have this great thing, and then other times you're like, I'm not really meeting anyone, and I'm alone on a ship, and we're in the middle of the ocean, and so it's like a lot emotionally, and it's this weird feeling of like even when you're having a great time, everybody kind of can't like wait to get home.
Yeah.
Then I would get home and like there's so much like overstimulus out there. I get home and then be sad. And
You're like, there's no water slide in here.
like there's no cover band right around the corner. like you go from so much entertainment and but I would also be sometimes so lonely out there, and I'd just be eating alone in like the buffet, just like sitting out in the harbor being like, I just want to get up.
There she is. There's the female comic.
Yeah, I could imagine it's awkward, especially if you had like a rough set or something and people are like, hey, you're like, oh my God. I just feel like I would just bring a wig with me to be like, I'm a different woman. Get away from me, guy who heckled.
Yeah, and it is tough. It's good and bad that people get to know you as the cruise goes on, but it's also tough as a comic because people come back to multiple shows and you're like, I've gone through every joke I
can't
have,
do it.
and it's hard.
Yeah. It's a hard job, and I commend any comic that can do it because I have friends in Houston, since it's kind of a port city. They make a brunt of their money is through cruise ships. And what I hear what you have to do, a lot of times you almost have to have 2 full hours of material, one clean and then one kind of like for adult later late night.
It sounds like you're also then juggling the personalities of the audience as you see them at like the buffet or like the bar. You're like, hello, you again.
And you have to keep your material pretty broad, don't you? Because you can't go super nuanced.
Yeah, you kind of like have to feel it out like as you go, and then you just end up going, well, let me try to write this new thing and see if that works. And then in a way, like, so I didn't go back to doing them like since the pandemic, and I don't know if I'd like to try to just stay on land and do that, but it's tough because again, it's like consistent work and it's good money, but you are away a lot, and the Wi-Fi on the ships you got to pay for, and it's not great because you're stuck on a ship and there's so many people that you really are detached from the scene, and you're just off the grid. People don't see you. But at the same time, it does give you a lot of stage time. It gives you a lot of like really focus on, especially because your sets are broken up. It's not just like, oh, you're gonna go do an hour. It's like you're doing 35 here and then you're doing 15 here. So like you really have to have such a like best of, but know how to stretch it. And then after a while, I was getting too comfortable out there. Like I was like, something happened like at port one day, and like something happened with we got like stuck. Something happened to the ferry or something, and then we all eventually got back, but had to take the local ferry. And like we had our theater show that night, which we just made it back in time for. But again, I was like, oh my gosh, we have to get back to this ship. Like we have this theater show. We like get back to the show. And like I'm opening the show and I was like, woo, did anybody get stuck on that ferry today? I was like, what is it? We were all missing the MTA. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing?
I love it. Cruise riff.
Like, here we are. Like, and I was fortunate that most of the cruises I worked went in and out of New York. So it was a lot of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut that I could do. I realized I could do New York jokes. So that gave me more material.
Yeah,
which helps.
that's good. That's good. So Megan, you have your album coming out. Is that right? So tell us everything about your album.
Yes, the album is out. It is called This Happy.
Where'd you shoot it?
I shot it at New York Comedy Club.
Love that place.
So great.
Love it. Love it.
Midtown location. So it's out now. I feel like if you go to my Instagram at the Meghan Hanley, the link is there. The link, I'm at the Meghan Hanley everywhere, and the link to my link tree is on everything. But it's available now. There'll be like short videos coming out, and then we didn't shoot it as a special, which I do regret, but at the time it seemed too overwhelming. Because I'd never even done an album, and it was just a lot.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's enough. It is enough. It is enough. We are all enough. Lady Journey is enough. Yeah.
And I do have some other camera angles, so we're gonna work on that next to try to put something out like later on. But
I shot mine was an album, and then there was a camera there, and then I released it as a special a year later.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you have the footage, just do it.
Yeah. And I have like I've broken the whole thing up. Like the reels are all ready to go. So reel wise, I have reels for the next.
That's what matters.
So either get Meghan's album or follow her on social media so you can see the clips.
At the Meghan Hanley.
At the Meghan Hanley. And I'm Katie Hannigan.
Sarah Talamash.
And please follow Lady Journey, subscribe on YouTube, follow our Instagram, Lady Journey Pod. And thank you and have a miraculous week, everybody. Bye-bye, Lady Journey.
Bye.